Hi guys, my name is Mikayla and I am 1/3 of the I'll Read What She's Reading podcast, and today we're going to talk about my 5-star reads for 2024. And there weren't very many of them. I don't know if I am just in a little bit of a reading slump or if I was just a harsh critic. This past year, I did read almost 140 books for 2024, and 5 of them were 5-star reads. I'm not quite sure what happened, and don't get me wrong, I did rate a lot of books as 4-star reads, or even 4.5. There were just a few I couldn't give 5 stars to. For whatever reason in my brain, I couldn't give it 5 stars. So I'm hoping that 2025 is better and that I have more 5-star reads. If you guys have any books that you would recommend for me based off these 5-star reads that I'm about to tell you about, please let me know in the comments, because I'm in desperate need of some books to wow me and to really just, it's immediate 5-star for me. So let's get into it. So if you guys follow along with the podcast, you guys know that I read the Harry Potter series for the first time, and I also hadn't watched all the movies before, ever, in my entire life. I don't know why. So after I read every single book, I decided to watch the movie after every single book, and I can say that the books are way better. I think the movies are really well done. There's just a few things that were missing. Like some big plot points that I loved in these books that I just was expecting to see in the movies and I didn't. I will say the deaths were way more emotional in the books. Anyways, I read most of them in the tail end of 2023. So I did finish this book in 2024. 5 stars. 5 stars. I loved this book. I cried so much reading this book, and if you know me, I don't cry very often in books. I also don't know why. It's really hard for me to cry. But this book really got me. To follow along with the same page, I decided to dive into fanfic of Harry Potter, and I decided to read Manacled. I had really no one who had read it previously, and I just had heard a lot of stuff about it on TikTok. So I decided, why not? Why not? I've heard a lot about it, so I was like, I really had no expectations going in. I knew it was a Dramamine. Is that what they call it? Like a Draco Hermione fanfic. And that was literally it. That was it. I decided to not read the trigger warnings, just because I didn't want things to be spoiled for me. But if you are someone who gets triggered by dark books, there is a lot of really heavy topics in these books, and I would definitely read those before you read Manacled. But this book, I know it's a fanfic, but it is incredible. It is so good. I loved it. I was not expecting to love it as much as I did. I cried also reading this book. It was so good. It was so good. I didn't have any expectations for it, and I feel like sometimes when I have no expectations for books, are the books that I rate the most highly. I don't know how to describe it besides I love these books, and I'm so glad a lot of you are starting to read it. It's just, it takes over my brain. I think about it a lot. I know there is a lot of some people don't like Manacled because it's not how it actually ended. I think it's fun. It's like an alternate ending to this book. And I just think it's fun to, read something different. It's almost like, I forgot what book it is, but I looked it up. The Giver. And the author, I did read that book. I did read it a long time ago in school, and I liked how the author made it so the ending could be interpreted in a lot of different ways, which I think is cool, because although this is definitely the actually published book, fanfic, you can get alternate endings to things, and I think that's really fun. It's like the story doesn't ever have to end. I think next on my list for Harry Potter fanfic is to read The Auction. And I read like the first few pages, and I'm really excited because I think where it starts in The Auction fanfic is, I think, a really cool spot for it to start off at. So I'm really excited about that. I also forgot about this one. So when we did I'll read what she's reading 2024 awards, I forgot that I rated this one 5 stars as well. One Dark Window. I really, really, really liked this one. It's like a gothic fantasy in the best way, and if you haven't read this book, I think you really should. It is a duology. Duologies are really, really fun. I love duologies. I think it's really nice to finish a series in 2 books. I don't know, there's just something about this book that really just like itched my brain, and really this was I think this was my first 5-star read of 2024, and then Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows was my second of 2024. This was a great book to start off with for 2024, and rating it 5 stars. The second book, some people like the second book more. I personally liked this book more for some reason. It also could have been the time that I read the second book was just not the best time for me to read it. We always like to talk about how sometimes your life and the time that you are living your life can affect how you rate books. And sometimes it's a you problem and not like a book problem, and sometimes it is a book problem. But this one was really good. I think I rated the second book 4 or 4.5, so it was still really good. I'm definitely excited. Rachel Gillick is coming out with another book in April or May, I believe, of 2025, and I'm really excited because her writing is just so enchanting. I think she has really grabbed the fantasy genre and inserted gothic elements into it, and it makes it so fun. I just think it's very unique from a lot of fantasy books that I have read personally. So I definitely highly suggest this one, and also it's not very big. So it is 392 pages, which is not a very big book in my opinion. Okay, next we're going to talk about Daisy Haites The Great Undoing. I loved this book. This is the right book, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm just making sure this is the right Daisy Haites that I rated 5 stars. I had a very love-hate relationship with the Magnolia Park series. And I definitely think the books get better as you go because you start to develop an attachment to the characters. So if you read the first book and you aren't obsessed with it, I would highly suggest continuing. My personal favorite is the Daisy Haites series. Well, the Daisy Haites storyline of the Magnolia Parks series. So Daisy Haites, to kind of explain it, the first Magnolia Parks book is, and I'm sure maybe Kennedy already had explained this, the first Magnolia Parks happens, and then the next book is Daisy Haites, and Daisy Haites takes place at the same time as the first book, just with 3 different point of views, which I think is really fun. At first I thought I was gonna hate like reading the same book twice pretty much, but they're so fun. I cannot wait for the next Daisy Haites book, especially after reading the last Magnolia Parks book, Into the Dark. Into the Dark was also very good, but I just have a special attachment to Daisy Haites, especially her brother. So good. Last one. I think this is the last book that I rated 5 stars in 2024. I read the Red Rising series. Well, I've only read the first 3, so this is the 3rd book of the Red Rising series, Morning Star. I don't know. I was actually very disappointed in the first book. I don't know why. I was expecting something. I think my expectations were something that set me up for failure while reading these books. So I rated the first one 3 stars, and then I rated the second one 4 stars, and then I rated the third one 5 stars. So I think it just definitely took me a second to get attached to the characters. And in the Red Rising series, it follows a character named Darrow. And this may be a very unpopular opinion, but Darrow is not my favorite character, and he is the main character. I wouldn't even say he's my top 3. And so I think that's why I had a hard time reading this series, was because it's through his point of view. So I don't know. But I really liked this book a lot. The problem with this series for me was I guessed all of the plot twists in this entire series, and I don't think I'm a genius. I don't think I'm very good at picking up on context clues. I don't know how or why, and most people might say I'm lying about guessing the major plot points for this. I literally have video evidence of me Marco Poloing Kennedy and Reggie, saying what I think is going to happen at the end of this. And I guess everything correctly. Which I'm really bummed that I did that to myself. And don't let that dissuade you from reading this series. I do think it is very good. I just did myself a disservice by having these expectations for the book that set it too high instead of going in with no expectations. And I just wish I set myself up to have no expectations with this book series, and it was just a valuable lesson. I don't know why it took me the longest time in my reading career, so say, to go into books with little to no expectation, and at least for me, because I have a much better outcome with reading books. I love when people hype books on TikTok, and I love when Reggie and Kennedy hype books up for me and like say they're these books that they really like. I just have to go into them with no expectations of liking them the same way as Kennedy and Reggie or any of my other friends who read books. Not liking it the same way they did, because everyone's reading experience is so different, which I think is what is really cool about reading. Because there may be some books that I rated 5 stars that you guys either didn't like or rated lower than me, which I think is totally great. I love that we can all interpret books and we can get meaning in a different way from these different books, and what impacts me reading these books will impact you differently. So anyways, that was all my 5-star reads. It's a kind of a short video. I'm hoping for 2025 my 5-star reads will be much longer. That would be really, really great. I'll see you guys next month. Bye!